Hi, this is Brian Pash. Welcome to today's podcast. Today we're going to be covering part 2 in a series devoted to measuring automotive ad platform performance. I've provided some additional supporting details and graphics on an article that I published on LinkedIn on October 4th, 2017. You could also click on the link in the comments box of this podcast to go directly to the article. Last week, I started a discussion that I believe is critical for auto dealers to understand in order to maximize their paid advertising spend, especially for Google AdWords. In part 1 of the series, I gave some background on my suggestion to break your AdWords campaigns into 5 categories. The reason why I suggested that you break out your AdWords campaigns into 5 categories is so that you can inspect the performance of each online strategy. Just to remind you, those 5 categories are branded keywords, geo-conquest campaigns, service and accessories, new vehicles, and used vehicles. I also made it very clear that you should not be accepting a roll-up AdWords report which averages all your campaigns, clicks, impressions, cost per conversion, because that could show that the average performance is great. But behind the scenes, it's masking a bigger problem that you have some campaigns that are very expensive that you can't improve because of a single roll-up report. So, most dealers are getting reports from their AdWords vendor by campaign, but take it one step further and group all your branding campaigns together, all your city geo-conquest campaigns together, your service and accessories, your new car, and used cars. Now, once you do that, the second recommendation was to inspect that all of your conversion channels are working in Google Analytics. Those 4 conversion channels are lead forms, phone calls, text messages, and chats. Most dealers, when they go into their AdWords reports, and you can do this yourself, when you're in the office, pull out your last month's AdWords report, and does the campaigns show how many phone calls, how many lead forms, how many chats, and how many text messages per campaign? You can understand why this is so important. If you just look at a number like, oh, I got 50 leads, how do you know what those 50 leads were from? How do you know how to inspect the outcome of those leads? Were they for sales? Were they for service? Remember, less than 20% of AdWords phone calls generated from new and used car campaigns are for new or used cars. The rest are for service and just general administration. Once you have your campaigns broken out into 5 categories, once you've confirmed that all 4 conversion channels are working in analytics and seen in your AdWords reports, then you could start to look at the effectiveness of each campaign strategy. One of the other things I'm suggesting is that dealers need to be looking at performance by landing page. So let's just talk about new car campaigns. Some campaigns will take consumers to the homepage. Others might take the consumer to a search results page or SRP. And some, in advanced ad tech platforms like lot links, will occasionally take people directly to the VDP. How do you know which strategy for landing page choice is working best in your local market for the cars that you stock? It's a very valid question, yet most dealers are not using Google Analytics properly to inspect the performance of their ad tech platforms. What I'm finding is that when you take a consumer to the homepage, you have higher conversion and higher engagement compared to when you take them to an SRP. Now, I know it sounds the exact opposite of what you thought, but I've been thinking about this, and let me tell you one idea that I have. If somebody types in 2014 Chevy Silverado into Google, do they want only a 2014 Chevy Silverado, or were they looking for a slightly used Silverado? A 13 or 15 could be fine. But let's just say they were looking for a black truck. Your AdWords company sees 2014 Chevy Silverado, thinks that that is the only intention of the consumer, takes the consumer to an SRP, a search results page, and there's 4 Silverado trucks, 3 are white, 1 is red. The consumer looks on that page and says, oh, they have no black Silverados, and leaves. Compare that to taking that consumer to an SRP with all used Silverados or the homepage. And most times what you'll find out is that the abandon rate, meaning landing on that page and leaving, significantly decreases and conversions increase. I think that for many ad tech platforms, unless they have very sophisticated targeting, are making assumptions, years-old assumptions, that the best place to take a consumer is an SRP or a VDP. But here's the truth. So many website platforms today have simplified homepages. If you look at Dealer Inspire, Fusion Zone, Dealer eProcess, lately their homepages are so simple. 3 or 4 buttons on the homepage, plus, of course, the top navigation. What are those buttons? Search new cars, used cars, service, and our specials. Consumers know how to shop and use auto dealership websites. So if you're seeing a 70, 80, 90% abandon rate when you take someone to an SRP, doesn't it make sense that you should be doing some A/B testing to see if taking them to the homepage is a better strategy? In the article that I posted on LinkedIn on October 4th, I created a spreadsheet that shows you the benefits of breaking out your AdWords campaigns in these 5 categories. And the point of this article was to show you how a simple average of all your campaigns is wrong, and also how powerful it is when you inspect conversion by landing page. Let's see the data more specifically. And those of you who are just listening to this podcast and don't have the luxury of looking at the graphic, I'll make sure that I describe what I'm seeing very clearly. If you're working with an AdWords agency that just provides a roll-up report for this particular dealer, they would see that their cost per conversion was $86 per lead. Now you may say, Brian, hey, that's good, that's high. Okay, so maybe the average is $40 or $30. So yes, it's high, but not necessarily so high that you would cancel this vendor. When you break it out by category, their category 1 campaign had the majority of total conversion with costs per lead at $10. There are some other campaigns at $142 a lead, $499 a lead. Ladies and gentlemen, do you see how effective you can be to improve your return on ad spend if you look at your categories of AdWords campaigns? Then I started to look at their new car campaigns, cost per lead, $300, $500, $250. But here was the biggest eye-opener. 90% of all conversions for this dealer's AdWords campaign came when the first page they hit was the homepage. This dealer was sending consumers to SRPs, to VDPs, to specials pages, yet 90% of the conversions occurred when the consumer was starting at the homepage, which means the homepage had no special tech. It's the default homepage. Ladies and gentlemen, it's really important for you to optimize your AdWords campaigns. You can't afford to be spending $500 a lead. You can't afford to be spending $200 a lead. What you need to do is find which campaigns are the most effective for AdWords and stop. Instead of just throwing money and saying, well, I have to do this type of campaign and this type of campaign and this type of campaign because I heard it in my 20 group. No, every market's different. Every AdWords agency is different. You need to be looking at the performance, the specific performance by campaign. And then when you have campaigns that are poor performers, you need to be inspecting what landing page choices are being used for that campaign. Ladies and gentlemen, when we looked at hundreds and hundreds of AdWords campaigns, here's a couple conclusions we came up with. Most conversions in Google AdWords are by simply buying keywords that include the dealer's name or the OEM brand and location. So for example, Circle BMW is in Eatontown, New Jersey. So Circle BMW, Circle BMW dealership, or BMW Eatontown, BMW dealer Eatontown. Those basic keywords that never change, right? The dealer's name doesn't change. The city names do not change. Those simple set of keywords generate the significant majority of all conversions. And most conversions in a dealer's AdWords campaign, listen to me, result when the person is sent to the homepage. Again, let me just make this clear. Consumers are very comfortable with navigating dealership websites. They have improved significantly over the years, especially those dealers who have a very simple, clean homepage. It allows the consumer to find exactly what they want, not your AdWords agency trying to guess what they meant from a single keyword. Now, there are some advanced ad tech platforms that are not just using one search query to determine where to take a consumer. Platforms like LotLinks are looking at multiple expressed search intent of consumers and their click activity, their engagement points on the dealer's website to determine where's the best place to take a consumer. The third thing that I've observed is that new car campaigns have a very high cost per sales outcome, not just per lead. Remember, I told you that less than 20% of phone calls for new car AdWords campaigns are for new cars. So we can't look at our AdWords performance just by lead conversions. How many phone calls, how many chats, texts, or lead forms. We have to use smart technology like Car Wars to listen to the phone calls and determine how many of those phone calls were for sales. We need to be using smart chat platforms like Car Now, which will send into analytics the outcome of the chat when they send a lead to your CRM. Also, dealers need to configure their goals properly so they can see these conversions and outcomes. Sadly, most dealers do not believe that their marketing data is a strategic asset. Now, that may sound like a harsh statement, but if dealers are not even looking to see if analytics is set up properly, then how can they expect to improve their advertising outcomes? And then lastly, when dealers look at their SEM campaigns, regardless of what Google told them, regardless of what the 20 group told them, when you look at specific campaign strategies and the cost to generate a sales opportunity or an outcome, some campaigns are just too expensive and they just don't make sense, meaning other alternative digital strategies would make more sense, be more cost effective, generate more conversions or return on ad spend. For example, dealers who believe and have a great branding strategy should be using video pre-roll. But it's not uncommon that most dealers do not have video pre-roll running, yet they're operating AdWords campaigns that are costing them $300, $400, $500 a sales opportunity and wondering why they're not selling any more cars. Ladies and gentlemen, we need better standards in AdWords reporting, which includes all 4 conversion channels, which includes conversions by landing page, which includes not just conversions, but How many of those conversions were for sales, service, parts, accessories, or they were just business calls? Someone checking to see if their license plates are in, or is their car ready for service? Consumers don't care if they click on your paid ads. It may be advertising a lease special, but they're on their mobile phone. There's your ad. They're going to click on it to call and see if their car's ready. You need to know that. You can't allow your AdWords agency just to say, oh, where's another sales lead. It wasn't a sales lead. It was a service call. I hope you understand that if we're ever going to get better to optimize our marketing mix as an industry, if we're ever going to optimize our return on ad spend, ROAS, we need to see data as a strategic asset. Take the time to read this article, take the time to look at the spreadsheet to create something similar for your business. And here's what I promise you. I will promise you that you will identify opportunities for improvement to sell more cars in a digital age. Thank you for listening to today's podcast.